evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Five Strikes Tonight here, the Dirty South Soccer Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels. My name is Sydney Hunt. I'm an editor and writer at Dirty South Soccer. Whether you're watching on Twitter, YouTube, or on Facebook, we are so glad that you can make us a part of your Friday evening, August 6th. 2021. It's hard to believe that we're halfway through the MLS season. I know it's crazy to think about, but Atlanta United have played 17 matches as of Wednesday. Of course, that 2-2 draw against CF Montreal up in Canada, the match that saw, of course, Joseph Martinez get shown a red card. Rather controversial red card if you're a Atlanta United fan, as you know, but unfortunately, that yellow card not overturned. It appears that Joseph Martinez will not play tomorrow against the Columbus Crew. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the new signing, Luiz Araújo. I believe I'm pronouncing his name right, from Lille, the new signing for Atlanta United. We'll touch on that as well. But as I said, Atlanta United have a match against Columbus Crew tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. at Lord.com Field, the new stadium up there in Columbus, Ohio. Joining me now to talk about the match is a staff writer from Massive Report, covering all things Columbus Crew and our sister site on the SBNation.com network. Her name is Abigail Hintz. Abigail, thanks so much for joining me tonight. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks a lot for coming on. First off, I want to talk about, of course, the big soccer news of the week, and that is, of course, that Lionel Messi is leaving FC Barcelona. So I want to start off with having a little fun. Kind of give me your elevator pitch to Lionel Messi if you want him to come to your fine city of Columbus. What would you tell him?
Good. That's a good question. Well, the big news in Columbus is Lower.com Field. We love the new stadium, and I mean, I'm biased, but I think it's pretty nice and pretty state of the art, and that's what I hear from some other people too. So, that's definitely a pull. Columbus is a great city. I've lived here all my life, and
Right.
I love it, love it. And I know a lot of the players from the crew who come from all over the world really find Columbus to be home. So that is what I would really, really dig into, the family. Columbus is family friendly, and we know Messi has some kiddos, so bring them over here, play for the black and gold.
Yeah, he does have gifts. I forgot how many he has. I think he has like 3 kids or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And in all seriousness, we'll see where he goes. I mean, it looks like
Yeah.
PSG, but yeah,
hmm
we'll see what happens. Let's shift to the Columbus Crew and the last, of course, since they've played Atlanta United, things haven't gone so well. They got blown out, of course, up at NYCFC. They were down 3-0 to DC United. They made a match of it, but unfortunately fell in that match 4-2. What's been going on with the Crew? Why have things kind of gone the way they've gone since they've last played Atlanta United?
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine, honestly. No one really knows. It was just weird. So past month or so, the depth has been really stretched. We've been missing a ton. At one point, we were missing as many as, I believe, 12 players, with injury and Gold Cup call-ups.
Right.
And so obviously everyone was like, man, how's the stretch going to go? And they came out of it strong. Porter was very pleased with the points they were able to get in that time. And then these past 2 games have been the most depth they've had in weeks. And for some reason, there's we're wondering if it's just chemistry issues with people coming back and it's just not, the cohesion isn't there, or the problems have really been just, especially against New York, or DC, excuse me, were just a lot of defensive issues. And Porter
Right.
has talked a lot about how it's been like the team as a whole has been playing pretty well. It's just individual moments that have been costing them big time, especially in that DC game. It was just really unfortunate moments, and it was just impossible to come back from. So, um, it'll be interesting to see. They definitely pride themselves on being a team that bounces back quickly after losses. That obviously did not prove to be true this week. So, I think they're really just hoping. I mean, they need to get this 3 points at home before going back on the road, because we all know you can't drop games at home in this league, or you're just set up for failure when it comes to the playoff push and all that. So,
Right. And I was looking at the standings as of now. Columbus 20 goals against through 17 matches, and 8 of those goals have been over the past two games.
yeah.
So is it just really an exception for Columbus, you think, rather than the rule in this case?
Yeah, I think so for sure. I think our back line has been so solid, especially in that stretch of just a real lack of depth.
Right.
So, I mean, Jonathan Mensah is one of the best center backs in the league. Um, and he owned up after the DC game, saying, like, took a lot of the heat. And I definitely think it's an exception to the rule. We are missing there. We have two center backs who are injured, Josh Williams and Vito Wormgor. So we're hoping to get them back quickly. But Keita Abubakar has been playing really well. It just the past few games, he's just showing his youth, I think. But I definitely agree with you that it is an exception to the rule these past few games. It's like 8 goals in 2 games is just ridiculous.
Right, right. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow night against really an Atlanta United side that have struggled to put the ball in the net, and that's
Yeah.
compounded, of course, with Joseph Martinez, as I mentioned at the top, suspended due
hmm
to this red card against Montreal. Speaking
Yeah.
of offense, Columbus have a pretty big piece returning to
hmm
its attack, and that, of course, is Jesse Zardes, who had really
Yeah.
some key moments in the Gold Cup. So,
hmm
how does his return to the club, and as well as other returns of other players to the club, boost Columbus's chances throughout this next stretch of matches here?
Yeah, for sure. I think Zardes is a huge addition. Well, not addition, but just a huge return for the club. That's
Right.
the striker position has been really shaky since he's been gone. So I think we have players who will be really good off the bench, but Zardes obviously is our best striker. So, and I think had he not played 120 minutes before on, I think it was Sunday, he would have definitely made a bigger impact on Wednesday against DC. But there was
Right.
just no Porter didn't want to risk injury, obviously, which makes sense because that's a ton of minutes. But um, Zardes is a huge one coming back. Um, would love for our tour to come back in the midfield, but he's out for
Yeah.
a while now with a hernia injury. He just had a procedure done, so he's out for the foreseeable future. Um, but coming back with Molino coming back from injury, he's been like slow to kind of get comfortable on the field, but
Right.
Wednesday he contributed to both the goals. So he definitely showed more promise. And obviously Diaz coming back from the Gold Cup. Thankfully, we got room back pretty quick with his team unfortunately pulling out of the tournament due to COVID.
Yeah.
But that was a blessing for us, unfortunate for them. But we didn't mind that too much. So it feels like it's just kind of a revolving door right now. Even like our Milton Valenzuela is a really solid defender for us, and he has been off and on, and now he's off again with another injury. So I think Porter is really just looking for that consistency, and it's hard to get right now. But this is the closest they've gotten for sure. And Zardes coming back, like you said, is a huge, huge part of that.
Sure. It's certainly a player that Atlanta United's defense will have to pay special attention to
Hmm.
tomorrow night. Another player that Atlanta United's defense will have to pay special attention to is, of course, Lucas De La Ryan. And, it's kind of keeping tabs on the New York City Columbus Crew match the other night, just kind of half thinking, considering the success he's had against NYCFC this season, it's kind of expecting him to have another one or two
Hmm.
free kick goals, but it's just unbelievable what he's been able to do week in, week out in MLS. Where do you put him as far as the top free kick takers in MLS from what you've seen of the league?
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen anything like him personally. Um, Sometimes I'm watching him and I'm like, how is he in Columbus? How is he in MLS? He's just every time he touches the ball, it's just game changing in some way or
Yeah,
another. Porter has called him the best attacking player in the league, which is a big claim, but
yeah,
I mean, Lucas definitely um, doesn't prove him wrong often. So, yeah, the free kicks is just ridiculous. I every time he took the when NYCFC was at Lord.com and he took that free kick.
yeah.
I got a video of it and it like blew up on Twitter and I was like, let's just make this a thing. So now every time he takes a free kick, I take a video in the hopes that it's going to be another one. So far, he hasn't done it yet, but that was not that long ago. So I just feel like it's bound to happen here soon.
Yeah.
The man is just ridiculous. And it's like, it's in every story, there's a joke of like, crew got fouled in prime Zelarayan territory. Like, as long as it's just that sweet spot right outside the 18, there's serious danger.
Yeah, I was. We had Jordan Angeli on a couple of weeks ago, and she was
Nice.
talking about that particular match you were just mentioning, and just the anticipation around Lord.com field. Everybody
Hmm.
standing up, just waiting for Lucas to hit another free kick. But
Yeah.
yeah, like we were just talking about, it's just terrific, or tremendous to see him do what he does week in, week out.
Hmm.
And like I said, another
Yeah.
player that Atlanta United will need to keep close tabs on.
Hmm.
We have to talk about Darlington Nagbe and the impact that he's had, not just on the Crew, but MLS as a whole. Of course, Atlanta United
Hmm.
know all about that. But, you know, going back to, again, a couple of weeks ago, talking to Jordan, and she was talking about how much of a winner Nagbe has been really at every club he's been to, even back in college at Akron.
Hmm.
What's his impact been from what you've seen to the Crew during his time in Columbus?
Yeah, I think he's one of those players that just often gets overlooked just because he's kind of a he makes a quiet impact,
Right,
but without him, the whole game changes. Like
right.
he really just controls the midfield so well and he's had a ton of different people next to him this year with all the injuries I talked about before. And yet he's been solid, he's been consistent. Porter said, I don't think he's had a bad game since I've coached him or since I've seen him, really. And I'm sure he would disagree, but he really is just such like the consistency in a team that's really struggling with consistency
Right.
is it just shows his veteran status, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, he I don't know where this team would be without him at this point. Just his presence on the field is so huge.
No, and it was the exact same with Atlanta United. And I
Hmm.
think one of the things with Atlanta is, they haven't been able to quite find that Nagby replacement. For us, we like to think it would be someone like a Mateus Hosetu, but at the same time, yeah, there's really no one like Nagby, I would say, in this
Hmm.
league, like for like. And when he went to Columbus, that impact was felt on Atlanta
Yeah.
because again, he's just so hard to replace, right?
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. He definitely is hard to replace and hard to describe in the same way.
Right, right. We touched on you touched on a little bit about Eloy Room, and Room's had a really good season, 15 starts, 41 save and 5 clean sheets. What's his impact been on this crew roster?
Yeah. I think Caleb Porter said it best. We were talking about Room the other day, and he said Room is so good that no one talks about Zach Steffen anymore, which is such
It's a lot to say,
a,
right?
a lot to say, a big statement, but it's true. I mean, not that people don't talk about Zach Steffen in a bad way, but after a goalkeeper like that leaves your club, there can
Yep.
be a big hole and you can definitely feel it. But I don't think this team has felt that at all
Right.
since Room's come in. He's just been so huge, um, stands on his head all the time. And obviously, these past few games, there's just only so much he can do. But um, between the back line and Room, they've definitely kept this team afloat while the offense was just had no one up there, different things like that. So we definitely appreciate Room in our net.
Right, right. And you mentioned the defense, and earlier you talked about Jonathan Mensah, and just the veteran leadership he provides,
Mhm.
not just as rolling with the top center backs in the league, but as the team's captain.
Yeah.
So I think it was the Atlanta match a few weeks ago where he was yelling at players, trying to get them organized, things like that. So
Hmm.
that leadership really shows, and it has shown throughout this season. You've seen the crew more than I have, so can you kind of dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. It's perfect timing to be talking about that because actually after Wednesday's game, he was one of the players who came into the presser afterwards, but
Right.
before he even got there, had tweeted out just kind of an apology to fans and taking ownership for the
Mm.
loss and promising to do better. And so we kind of were talking to him about it, and he was like, "Hey, I set the tone. This is my team, and if I'm not setting the tone well or performing well myself, how can I expect them to do the same?" And
Right.
it's just really interesting to hear him own up to things like that and being willing to come in and talk to us after a loss. Like that's definitely the um, right thing to do as a captain. And other players talk very, very highly of him. Um, Marlon Harrison actually said today that he said the same thing to the locker room before he even got into the presser. Just saying, like, just making sure the locker room is staying tight in
Right.
a stretch of games like this because that's so important. Locker rooms can quickly turn negative, and
Yep.
from our understanding and from what the players have told us, it has not gone there yet. And I think Jonathan Mensah is a huge part of that.
Yeah, it's easier for that to happen, especially unfortunately with the run of play that Columbus has had. But it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like you're talking about things are kind of being held together with players like Mesa on the roster that have
Mm-hmm.
proven invaluable to the roster, and I'm sure Nagby as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
So we kind of dived into the crew Atlanta matchup. So what are kind of your thoughts on how things might go tomorrow, and did you have a scoreline prediction?
Oh yeah, good question. It's really, really tough right now to predict a score. But I think tomorrow I want to say it's going to go great and
Right.
that they're going to finally get that bounce back that they've been wanting. And I think they will. I don't know that it's going to be the full 3 points. My
Mm.
gut is telling me we're looking at a tie, but I definitely think we're going to see goals. I think 1-1 or 2-2 tie
Mm.
is kind of what I'm feeling. Just because Giassi's back, we're gonna score. You gotta score when Giassi's back, right?
Right.
Um,
Do you think he'll
Lucas is
start?
in.
Do you think he'll start on Saturday or tomorrow?
I think he will start tomorrow.
Mm.
I don't think he'll play the full 90, but
Right.
I see him starting. Um, they've talked about carrying momentum from the second half of the last game where they got those 2 goals,
Right.
and Zardes was subbed in that second half with some others. So I think it's really important to kind of get that lineup right starting off and then going from there. Um, Yeah, I'd say I think we're looking at a tie, but definitely some goals.
Yeah, we shall see. Atlanta United and Columbus Crew tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Before I let you go, I have to ask you. Columbus is getting another World Cup qualifier,
Mhm.
except this year is not Mexico's Costa Rica. So Mexico, the Mexico match went down to Cincinnati, as you know.
Okay, yep.
So
Mhm.
I want to ask you your feelings on Costa Rica instead of Mexico coming to Lord Account Field. And are you disappointed that it's not Mexico this time? Because it's kind
Mhm.
of seemed like a tradition, right? It had to be every time, World Cup qualifier comes around, U.S. Mexico had to be in Columbus. So
Yeah.
kind of want to get your thoughts about going to Cincinnati instead.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely been a hot topic around here past few
Right.
weeks, but we talked to Brian McBride a few weeks ago, shortly after that announcement, and he said obviously there's no hard feelings. It wasn't um, all the things, but I think of course everyone's disappointed it's not Mexico, but I think we have this new stadium and it's time for new traditions. And I almost kind of feel like, that was um a historic Crew Stadium thing.
Right.
I can't honestly myself, just aside from all of it, like I grew up going to historic Crew Stadium and I went to the USA Mexico games and I can't imagine it being
Yeah.
anywhere other than that. So I kind of feel like it's okay that it's not Mexico. It's exciting that we got a World Cup qualifier at all. Not surprised because I know Greg Berhalter was at the stadium opener and
Right.
had only good things to say from what I hear. So um, I think fans will get over it quickly, hopefully. But I mean, who's to say we won't see USA Mexico in the future? I
Right.
don't think it's gone forever, and unless they build that tradition somewhere else, but I don't think. I think it's either coming back to Columbus one day or it's just gonna hop around from now on. I don't think it's gonna find a new home, quote unquote.
Right. I think people in Atlanta are just hoping that Atlanta gets a qualifier at some point in
Yeah,
the future. We're all waiting
exactly. That's
for
what I'm
it.
saying. I'm like, be grateful. We got one. Like,
Yeah.
at least we got something.
Yeah, we're hoping that when the World Cup comes along in 2026, that Atlanta is in the
Yeah,
discussion. It certainly hopes like it will be, but that's still
yeah, for
still a
sure.
ways off. Still a ways off
Yeah,
in the future. Thank you again for coming on, Abigail. Really appreciate your
yeah, of
time.
course.
And where can people find you online?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter. I don't know if my Twitter handle's on here, but it's a hints 04. Um, that's where you can find all my work and all that stuff. I'm graduating college in December, so we'll see where you can find my work after that. But for now, that is where I am, and that's where all my information is as to everything I'm working on right now.
Awesome. Well, early congratulations on your graduation, and hopefully
Thank
you
you.
land somewhere. Um, get a nice career in journalism going. But
Yes.
yeah, again, Abigail Hintz from Massive Report. Thank you again, Abigail, and
Yeah, of
we'll talk
course.
to you soon.
Thanks so much for having me. Have a good day.
Of course, you too. All right, Abigail Hintz from Massive Report, and Massive Report, of course, is our SB Nation site covering all things Columbus Crew. So you can head over there to see how they're covering the Crew match. All right, gonna stick with you guys for just a few minutes here as we talk about Luiz Araújo. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Araujo. Um, the pronunciation is somewhere on there, but I see your questions. Thank you very much, Elliot, for your question. Friend of the site, Elliot Beaven, saying, do we think getting Luis Araujo is a better move than Ferreira, which is the other name that was around? And I think it is. I think it is for the simple fact that Ferreira had previous injuries to his knee, and that was going to be a huge risk for Atlanta United to bring him on board with his knee injury, and it's just too much to think about to bring on a player that you don't know will have an impact, based on his injury history. I think it was too much for Atlanta United to take into account, and they just gave it the chase on Ferreira. I don't know if he would have been the. Of course, we don't want to look at. we don't want to ask ourselves, 5 years from now, whether Luiz or Ferreira would have been a better pick. Hopefully, hopefully, Luiz Araujo pays off. I think he will. I think he will. From what I've seen, what I've heard of him, what's been talked about on social media, it looks like he'll be a great move. Of course, we said that about PT Martinez, and unfortunately, things didn't pan out with PT the way we thought. But yes, Araújo, Luiz Araújo, I think the way it's pronounced, according to Atlanta United's pronunciation guide, and it's released this morning. So Luiz Araújo, I'll get that right sometime, is a member of the Five Stripes officially. Of course, coming over from Lille, has Champions League experience. Lille, of course, winning Ligue 1 for the fourth time in club history. PSG usually on top of Ligue 1, but this year, or this past season, was Lille. And Araújo has Champions League experience, of course, not just Champions League experience. He appeared in all 6 of their Champions League matches in 2019 and 2020, where Lille finished 4th in Ligue 1. And during the 2021 season, he appeared in 20 matches, 17 starts. Lille finishing with 83 points from reading it off the club release. And along with that, they beat PSG 1-0 on August 1st in the Trophée des Champions match against PSG. The first time Lille had ever won that competition. 5-9 for 25 years old from Taquaritinga, Brazil, I believe it's pronounced. Came through the São Paulo Academy. Played in the 2016 U20 Copa Libertadores. He helped São Paulo win that in 2016. And then, of course, signing for Lille in 2017 to play for the great Marcelo Bielsa, the manager back then. But yeah, it's a designated player signing. Of course, we're thinking that, actually, we're pretty sure that Alan Franco has been brought down to TAM level to allow for Araújo to be a designated player. That certainly seems like the case. And I have to check. I was checking the international slots earlier to see where Atlanta United were as far as that's concerned. And it looks like they have 9. So I would think that a green card is coming soon, unless they had 9 in the first place. It is hard to keep track. And as you know, as we say here at Dirty South Soccer, the international slots don't matter. So what matters is he is here with the team, has to go through visa things and all of that before he officially comes to Atlanta. But Rob Valentino saying in this press conference earlier that he expects Araújo to be here early next week. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if he is available for selection against LAFC next Sunday at home at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Overall status 12-13 says playoff or no playoffs. Unless things change really, really quickly for this club, I will say no playoffs. That's why you brought in Araújo, right? Not as a band-aid to fix everything, but hopefully as a player that can boost the attacks. Fortunately, and this is something that Ezequiel Barco and Rob Valentino brought up during their press conference earlier today. Fortunately, it looks like the attack is starting to progress. Things are starting to come together. Of course, you're missing Joseph tomorrow, unless between now and 7:30 p.m. the disciplinary committee decides to overturn his red card. From what I heard, he did travel with the team. He will be with the team, but not available for selection. So unless something changes between now and then, he will not be able to play. Speaking of being available for selection, Miles Robinson will be available for selection tomorrow against Columbus Crew. Rob Valentino did say that Brooks Lennon will not be available for selection, although he is being listed as questionable in the injury report. He has been ruled out by Rob Valentino. Also listed as questionable in the injury report was Jake Mulroney with his lower body injury. But going back to playoffs or no playoffs, I think the door is open for Atlanta United to do so, but they have to go on the run. sooner rather than later. And I think this match against Columbus Crew has a chance to set the table for what the rest of the season will look like. Rob Valentino said, it'll be a good test of this club's character, how they do against the Crew tomorrow night. And Abigail mentioned you'll have Zardes back for the Crew, so that's a player that you'll have to keep an eye on. Zilla Ryan, certainly. Other players that you'll have to keep an eye on if you're Atlanta United's defense, especially with the struggles they've had, the struggles that the Crew have had. Abigail mentioned, the Crew will be out to turn the tables and put aside those 2 losses where they just conceded 8 total goals between 2 matches, where their prior matches before that in MLS, they only conceded 12 times. It's tough to win when you're giving up 4 goals. And but again, 12 goals coming into that match allowed before losing 4-1 to NYCFC, and then they give up another 4 to DC United. So some cracks in the foundation for the Columbus Crew. Hopefully those can be exploited tomorrow. Ollie has another question. Does Atlanta still have a chance for Almada? The news is, and Barco mentioned this, the hope is that Almada can join the team in January. Obviously, no chance of him coming with the transfer window being closed and Oversal's 12-13 with a frowny face, unfortunately. Things didn't come together in time for Atlanta United to bring in Almada during this transfer window. The question is, with Almada, where do you put him? Where do you put him? And I think we'll have a better picture of that in January should everything come to fruition. From what has been mentioned by the Veda Sarsfield president, it sounds like, and I mentioned this on Instagram Live yesterday, it sounds like Atlanta United and Veda Sarsfield will kind of come to a pre-contract, so to speak, kind of an agreement where Veda continues to have him on their team until January, where he will be released to go to Atlanta United. That's coming from the Villa Sarsfield president. I don't have the exact quote in front of me right now, but all signs point to Thiago Almada joining Atlanta United in January. Of course, he is a player that Atlanta United would like to have had in this transfer window, but they will not be able to bring him in as of now. Again, January looks like the most reasonable date to expect Almada. And Felipe Cardenas asked a question of Barco in Spanish. I didn't get the translation, but I believe he asked him, do you expect to be here in January when Almada is set to come to Atlanta United? And Barco answering to the extent of, I don't want to think about the future right now. I just want to focus on the present. And if I do get a chance to play with Almada, I'll be glad to do so. Almada and Barco, of course, both played for Argentina in the 2016 Olympics, or 2016 Olympics, the 2020 Olympics. And yeah, so they had some conversations with each other, and Barco told Almada about Atlanta United, about the city of Atlanta, about the fans and things of that nature. And again, Barco saying, something was set to be put in place for this transfer window. And of course, that didn't come to fruition. So January again is when we should expect Thiago Almada. All right, that is it for me for this edition of Five Stripes tonight. You can follow me at SHWrites on Twitter, SHWRITES. And of course, as always, for the latest Atlanta United news, analysis, and opinion, log on to DirtySouthSoccer.com, SB Nation's home for all things Atlanta United. Again, my name is Sidney Hunt. Thanks again for joining me on this Friday evening. We'll catch you next time for another edition of Five Stripes Tonight. So long, everyone.